All right, we are going to now move on to supply. We've been covering demand now for a couple days, and hopefully we have it down that when we talk about demand, we're looking at it from the consumer's perspective. As we shift to supply, we have to shift gears in our head. We have to think of it from the producer's perspective. This is going to make it a lot easier to understand, especially when we go through the things that cause the supply curve to shift with an increase or a decrease. If you're looking at it from a consumer's perspective, you're going to get them all wrong. All right, so we have to really think as if we are the producer. Think of yourself as the business owner as we go through this. All right, so the first thing we want to look at, especially if you're a business owner, are total revenue and profit, because these things are, the things you got to know to see if your business is going to stay alive. The definitions are there given to you guys, so we'll go through this and answer the questions for each of these. But total revenue, like it says, is the income a business receives from selling a product. Our equation to find total revenue is TR equals P times Q. So looking at the actual equation, let's break it down. TR obviously is total revenue. P stands for price, and Q is quantity. All right, the things we're looking at with supply and demand. So as a business owner, you're producing something. Well, how much are you selling it for? Times how many are you selling? That will give you your total revenue. Your profit then is what your revenue is minus your total cost. So whatever it costs to make that particular good or that service, you got to subtract those costs from what money you brought in. What's left is your profit. If there's nothing left, you're not making profit. So as a firm, it's important to know the difference between revenue and profit. Why? The main thing I want you to think of is it's possible to have a total revenue that's positive, obviously, but a profit that's negative. So you have to know both to kind of compare the two. All right, just because you're making money when you sell a product doesn't mean you're making a profit. All right, so when we look at our actual profit and we're subtracting our costs, all right, as economists, we're going to break down our costs into two groups, fixed and variable. Very similar to when we did consumer economics and we covered the budgets as an individual. We have our fixed and our variable expenses. All right, it's going to think of it the same way, just from a business owner's perspective now. Your fixed costs are those things that regardless you have to pay at the end of the month. Your rent, your insurance, your loan payments, your utility bills. Your variable costs are the ones that change, all right, based on the input, based on, the level of production of output, based on how much you're producing. So the more you produce, the more hours you're going to pay your workers. The less you produce, the less hours you pay your workers. So your variable costs can kind of fluctuate. It's going to be based on how much you produce. So your fixed and your variable costs lead to your total costs, which then that's what you could subtract from your total revenue to find out if you're making a profit or not. Very important to break those two down though. And this is why entrepreneurs that are in on a business on their own put so much time to their business, because if they leave the business for a week to go on vacation, that's production that's not there, but you still have your costs. Your fixed costs are still coming in. Even though you might not have any variable costs because you're not paying anyone while you shut down for a week, but your rent's going to come due, your loan payments are going to come due, and your utility bills are going to come due. So just kind of keep that in mind. Marginal cost, you might want to think of the Lego activities that go through this. All right, so the extra cost of producing one more unit. The question is, why would a firm want to know the marginal cost? Well, you want to see, is it worth producing that next unit? In the Lego activity, I kept adding workers, all right, and our total production would go up for a period of time, then eventually it kind of came to an end, and then it wasn't worth hiring that next worker. So that's why you kind of want to think of this too, all right? At what point do I shut down production? At what point is it costing me more to produce that next unit than what I'm actually getting in total revenue and profit? All right, once you hit that point, obviously you don't want to produce anymore. All right, something's got to change. You got to increase the facility, the amount of space, whatever it might be. In the long run, it can all work out, but you got to figure out right now, what do I want to produce? How much is enough, and how much is too much? All right, and when that marginal cost, that's what you're going to use that for, to determine at what point you shut down production. All right, so one way you might think about this is farmers, all right, and corn. All right, I think it's an easy kind of scenario to make this make sense. So the question is, how many states in the U.S. grow corn? I usually in class will ask, how many states are there in the United States? And some students actually get it wrong, which really makes me upset. However, we should all hit 50. So how many states actually grow the corn in the United States? take a guess in your head right now? Are you in the teens? Are you in the single digits? 20, 30? It's actually all but 2, Hawaii and Alaska. Right, obviously, Hawaii is an island that's volcanic, and Alaska is too cold. Just every other state grows corn to some extent. All right, so why? All right, why do so many states grow corn? What is corn used for all? All right, if you're at home, I would tell you to take a look in your pantry, look at the ingredients, see how many things you can find that has corn in it. Just about everything you and I eat nowadays has corn in it. They produce corn, ethanol, fuel out of corn now. Farmers feed their animals tons and tons of corn. All right, if you like eating meat, I would advise you not to watch the movie Food Inc. All right, Food Inc. shows you how cows and chickens, aren't by nature, their digestive tracts aren't designed to eat corn and digest corn, but they give them that corn because it's a bunch of protein that fills them up, fattens them up, and then they get bigger chunks of meat from those particular animals. So it's not really natural, but hey, it works, I guess, if you like a bigger piece of chicken and a bigger, steak. So between 2005 and 2008, the price of corn tripled from $2 a bushel to $6. So based on what we're going to cover here with supply, if you're a farmer producing corn and it goes from you being able to get $2 per bushel that you want to sell to $6, what are you going to do? Are you going to produce less, or are you going to produce more corn? Well, the obvious answer is you're going to produce more corn, because at that point you're going to make more money. So this is just how this flows. It's like kind of the ebb and flow of the system. As the price goes up, more people are going to supply it, so farmers are going to produce more corn, less beans or other products. And then if the price starts to decrease, they decrease their supply, because now they can maybe make more money producing the beans. And then when the price comes back up for corn, they shift production back to producing more corn since they can make more money again. So it's just that ebb and flow. It kind of goes up, it goes down, all right? And the production, the amount being produced, the supply to market is going to be based on that right there, how much you can make from it. How much are people willing to pay for that particular product? All right, so the quantity supplied, all right, we talked about this with the quantity demanded, quantity demanded and changes in demand. So again, when we see that word quantity, I want you thinking the word price. So it says the amount of a good that firms are willing to supply at a particular price over a given period of time. So the key word to make the connection to quantity supplied is that word price. So I'll write your answer down, just simply price. I just want to get that in your head, drill it in your head. Quantity, price, quantity. If you can get that down, it's going to make the questions on changes in quantity supplied versus changes in supply a lot easier. So do firms want to sell goods at higher or lower prices? Again, you're not looking at this from the consumer's perspective. All right, yes, the consumer wants to buy it at a lower price, but firms, if you're the business owner, what do you want to do? Do you want to sell it at a higher or a lower price? That's obvious. You want to sell it at the highest price you can get for it, because your total revenue goes up. Then when you subtract your costs, hopefully you're making a higher profit. That's what causes our law of supply to have this positive relationship. Okay, so our law of supply is an increase in the price of a good leads to an increase in the quantity supplied, or vice versa. A decrease in the price will lead to a decrease in quantity supplied. So when we say quantity supply, remember it's a movement along the curve. As I look at that, it's caused by a change in price. It's not caused by something else causing the entire market to change. All right, so we have to make sure we see that. So if I'm looking at point B here, when price goes up, I move along the curve to point C. All right, and I can see that when my price went up, the quantity that I'm selling that to the market goes up as well. And then we can look at it the opposite way. If you just go the opposite way with those arrows, as you go from B to A, my price decreases, my quantity supplied to the market decreases. So keep that in mind. And that's why I keep emphasizing when we look at supply, you got to think of it from a producer's perspective. If you're the business owner and you can get more money for your product, you want to supply more to the market. If you're getting less for your product, you're going to pull it off the shelves, and into some case you're going to create a shortage. And then once there's a shortage of something, people are usually willing to pay a higher price, so then you increase supply as the price goes up again. And that's just that kind of ebb and flow of our system with supply. So the question is, the relationship between price and quantity the same as it was with the law of demand? Our answer is no. Remember, with the law of demand, the arrows go in opposite directions. Price goes up, quantity demanded goes down. That's an inverse relationship. We call this a positive relationship. Price goes up, quantity supplied goes up. Price goes down, quantity supplied goes down. So one more little scenario here, just to kind of understand how supply can be changed with technology and stuff. In the 1950s, Ray Kroc sold milkshake machines that allowed one worker to make 5 milkshakes at once. Restaurants that used his machines were able to hire fewer workers and have less costs, increasing total revenue, increasing profits. Dick and Mac McDonald were one of his customers who used them at their 8 hamburger stands. Ray Kroc was so impressed with their business that he bought it. He bought the 8 hamburger stands, and you guys can fill in the rest. What happened next? Obviously, McDonald's was born and turns into an empire. So it all started with those milkshake makers, all right? Ray Kroc was able to figure out a way to lower the costs, increase total revenue, increase profit, and then he just kept dumping those profits back into the business. So how do McDonald's restaurants today use technology to run their operations, all right, and increase overall supply? So usually I'll get responses of, just a computer system there. When you place an order, it pops up on the screen in the back. Nowadays, some McDonald's are putting those kiosks in where you reduce the amount of workers in the front. I know some McDonald's, one in Illinois and a couple across the country, I think it was Southern Illinois somewhere, I forget where exactly, but they were testing using outsourcing for the drive-through workers. So when you come up to the drive-through, you're actually placing your order to someone sitting at a computer in India. That person's willing to work for $3-4 an hour compared to the person at McDonald's making $9-10 an hour. You save a lot of money that way. So you place your order with that person in India, they punch it into the computer, pops up on the screen, so the people making the food at the McDonald's in Joliet then knows then what to make. All right, so those are just some examples of another example of how we want to look at that supply curve, how things cause increases or decreases in overall supply.